Okay, I suppose we can start. Welcome everyone to the Ceph Developer Summit session on RBD. This is just going to be, like a planning thing. I'll attempt to enumerate the things that we expect some work to happen on during the Reef cycle. And it won't probably take long, so in the end we can just discuss other ongoing business as well. The most important bucket here is MIDI Mirror related issues and work items. Even though RBD Mirror daemon has been there for quite a while, it dates back to 2016, I think. It turns out that it is even the journal-based mirroring, which is as old as RBD Mirror, is not particularly stable, and there are things to improve. And this goes in particular for the snapshot-based mirroring, which was added in the Octopus cycle, I think, but hasn't seen much use until now. We discovered a good number of issues with just error and edge case handling. There's split brain conditions and also conditions that are reported as split brain but aren't actually split brain in the sense that the source cluster and the target cluster agree on the state. Is just that the local RBD mirror daemon just gets stuck for whatever reason. These are the top priority issues right now, since even though some of them may appear to be innocuous and can be worked around by restarting the RBD mirror daemon, they actually stop the replication, and at least for that particular image, but may also have wider implications due to the fact that the replayers, the image replayers within the RBD mirror daemon, there is one instantiated for each image. They're not as independent as we thought. So these are just bugs that need to be fixed. And related to that, I mentioned that a lot of them can be worked around by restarting RBD Mirror. We need to ensure that RBD Mirror daemon can always be restarted. It can always pick up the pieces after it is killed. This is important not just for these workarounds in the short term, but also just because in Kubernetes environments, daemons can be terminated for a number of reasons. In particular, daemons get terminated for upgrades, and ungraceful here refers to really any shutdown So that includes the Kubernetes dance of sending a seek term signal and waiting for a while, and only after that actually sending a sick kill signal. The graceful shutdown from the RBD mirror point of view, as it is today, would be to just stop mirroring with the actual RBD commands, and no one is going to do that. The other major bug is the fact that image promote command has a force flag, and that force flag unfortunately comes with a bunch of preconditions that are just not feasible in the real world. In particular, it more or less requires the way it works. It depends on whether the source cluster is reachable or not, and if it's not reachable, it actually, in most cases, it just refuses to work. So, as someone put it, there's not much force to force promote currently, and this again necessitates various workarounds, in particular restarting or stopping the RBD mirror daemon before issuing force promote, which is not that big of a deal if there's a disaster, because those are supposed to be rare, but it's really sloppy and should be addressed. Again, related to that is the fact that RBD mirror daemon does not currently give up if the source cluster becomes unavailable. There are some provisions for handling that case, but the timeouts are basically not there, and manual action is, in some cases, manual intervention is required. Next up are a bunch of items related to operating at scale. The first one is snapshot scheduler improvements. The snapshot scheduler, as it is today, is pretty dumb. If you have 100 images and a certain scheduling interval, then all those images get snapshotted more or less at the same time, instead of those snapshots being spread across the scheduling interval. That puts a necessary load on both the source cluster and the target cluster. There is an issue, or a bunch of issues related to logging. The logging is somewhat challenging to configure, and particularly so in Kubernetes environments, just due to how Ceph containers, due to how Ceph daemons get wrapped into Ceph containers and how those containers are deployed. The standard ways of applying log-related options on the command line are more or less not available anymore, because that would require like too much intervention and too much expertise to be frank. There is the centralized configuration database on the monitors. It's been there since the Nautilus release, but the RBD Mirror daemon has not been adapted to make a good use of it. And this leads to a bunch of just user experience pitfalls. If you ask someone to bump the log levels for RBD Mirror daemon, it needs to be done on both the source cluster and the remote cluster, and the set of options that need to be enabled for that is really not obvious. So the task here is to first of all make everything go to the same log file, because on top of the issues that I've just enumerated, unless you go through unless you're extra careful when setting up those log-related options and configuring those, the logs will go to different log files in different directories, and reconciling that or even capturing all of them is unnecessarily hard. We need to make all of them go to the same log file, but at the same time make those log streams be more identifiable and just graphable and generally easier to follow if you're just attempting to, if you're just scrolling through the log file. The issue of making log streams more identifiable is not unique to RBD Mirror. I believe there is a similar problem with PG logging in OSDs, and you may have seen a typical log message for something that has to do with a particular placement group. The prefix for that message is usually 3 to 4 times longer than the log message itself. Because of that, there's probably too much information crammed into that prefix. On the RBD Mirror side, we have the reverse. There's not much there except for the ID of the thread that issued the log message, and that makes it very hard to to piece these log messages together in the RBD Mirror context, because unlike everything else in the RBD ecosystem, it actually instantiates multiple librd, or more precisely, libRadius instances. It instantiates one of those for each image that is being replicated, and if you think about it, it's grepping for that is just a nightmare. And the other productization item here is consistent image level metrics. We already have some, but they're not necessarily consistent between each other, and they're also not exposed as well as they should be. Currently, it's just a JSON dump, which one can get via a particular RBD Mirror image command. We need to make sure that all of that is exposed through the admin sockets. that individual replayers instantiate, and make sure that the format in which that is done is easily consumable by the new per node Prometheus exporter that is being worked on. I have a link to the exporter PR. What it basically does is it scrapes the admin sockets on the node and translates those metrics into something that Prometheus can slurp up from an HTTP endpoint. There's a general issue with the perf counters as they are exposed by admin socket, through admin sockets today. And that has to do with the fact that the metrics names are not stable. In particular, for RBD, we embed the pool name and the image name in the metric name, and that goes against that's not how Prometheus. That's not what Prometheus expects, because all of the aggregation facilities that it has depend on the metric name being stable. So if it's, let's say the number of IOPS, then it should be, the name should be, the number of IOPS, and the image name and the pool name and all of the associated metadata needs to be communicated in the labels. The Prometheus exporter that is under development is, as a first step, is probably going to do that internally. So it is going to parse these inconvenient metric names, extract stuff like pool name and image name and other label-ish fields from that. But longer term, we should do that at the perf counter level. There's a ticket that I forgot to link, but there's a ticket for that. This is obviously not specific to RBD, so there's this is going to be done, I think, as part of this per node Prometheus exporter initiative. And once that is done, we're going to need to switch the metrics that we already have and the metrics that we are going to add to that new format. The next item is scale testing. And well, there's not much to talk about here. We need to see how RBD Mirror behaves with more than a couple of hundred images. Some of that work is already underway, and we already have some results. And we actually hit a bug in Lattice while doing that. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot more to find, and in particular on the RBD Mirror side. Right now, these efforts are focused on a single RBD Mirror daemon, so we're not talking about multiple RBD daemons. There is some support for that already, but the policy code that is responsible for distributing images between multiple RBD daemons may have some issues which we don't know about yet. So that would probably be the next step, or the next step in this scale testing effort, to stand up multiple RBD mirror daemons and see, exercise the policy code and see how that behaves. And finally, a couple of stretch goals. There is a work in progress PR for and in support for mirroring, or snapshot-based mirroring of RBD consistency groups. So that may or may not land, or may or may not be worked on, but it would be nice to, because the bulk of the work has been done, and it would be nice to finish it in time for the Reef release. And the other thing that, depending on how you look at it, should probably receive higher priority, is some sort of checksumming for mirror snapshots, and for like after these snapshots are replicated and applied on the target cluster, there needs to be a mechanism that ensures that everything went fine, and that the replicated image matches the original one, given that the whole thing is basically based on repeated applications of deltas. An integrity mechanism is a must. So this is something that I think we will be working on as well. Any questions on RBD Mirror initiatives?
There is another project that probably worth mentioning is multi-pair support that Arthur is working on. So I posted a link to the chat.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot about that one, because in my mind it's more of a feature, whereas the things I've listed out here are well, except for the consistency groups thing, which I remembered because I happened to be looking at it recently. The rest are really just existing, like issues with the existing code that need to be fixed, because for some of these there are gaping holes in the existing code. But thanks for that. I'll add it to the pad and to the Trello board, which I'm going to amend based on the outcome of this meeting. Anything else? Okay, moving on to the next kind of big ticket item or group of items is the NVMe over Fabrics gateway for RBD. Going forward, this is supposed to replace the iSCSI gateway. NVMe over Fabrics protocol is considered to be superior, and like this is where we're going to be investing our efforts going forward. It is not on par with iSCSI yet. Work in progress, but just a general direction is that the NVMe Fabrics gateway is going to take over the iSCSI gateway, hopefully. That's the hope, because we don't want to maintain both forever. So the status here is that a single gateway in a single gateway group is, that is more or less working, and it's working well enough for us to have embarked on benchmarking it, and there is an ongoing performance investigation because we've identified some irregularities, and basically we see performance degradation in some cases, which is not there when the NVMe OF gateway is not in play, and these issues appear to be down to SPDK. At least that's the current working theory. SPDK is the project that we use for the NVMe over Fabrics target. So just as the iSCSI gateway uses the CMU runner, the NVMe over Fabrics gateway uses SPDK for this purpose. The NVMe OF target app inside SPDK, to be precise. So there's ongoing investigation there. There's nothing at the architectural level that would explain these issues. So it's just a matter of tracking it down and fixing. On the gateway itself, on the gateway implementation front, the gateway configuration persistence PR is almost ready. There's a final set of comments there that needs to be addressed, and with that, it will be, restarting NVMe gateways will be possible, and this also lays the groundwork for having more than one gateway in a gateway group and having more than one gateway group going forward. So this is the prerequisite for having active gateways. I'm not sure if Jonas or others. Okay, I don't see anyone who's involved in that effort here. So I'm going to leave it at that. But this is another major focus for us for the Reef cycle. The next couple of items are things that we already have PRs for. They just need to get to review and be merged, and they might get backported to Quincy as well. The first one is support for thin-provisioned encrypted clones. And this refers to being able to have multiple clones in the chain. So this would be, a clone of a clone of a standalone image, for example, and have those clones be encrypted with different passphrases and with different encryption formats. Because the way it is today, it is possible to have encrypted clones, but the format and the passphrase is the same as that of the original parent image. So this PR is going to change that. It is currently under review and should land soon. The next one is support for NVD stream in RBD live migration. This is a little hard to explain if you're not familiar with the existing live migration feature, but basically it boils down to the fact that currently we have support for live migrating from a QCOW2 image. Well, not just QCOW2. I think the QCOW1 images are also supported, but the issue is that that support is partial. None of the enhanced QCOW2 features are supported, and so that limits its usefulness because some of these features are actually starting to be enabled by default, or if not by default, then in wide use, and this means that we can't line migrate from those images, from those QCOW2 files, if you will. And just at the implementation level, the issue is that we basically re-implement the QCOW2 protocol or format within LibRBD, and we in order to make it feasible, we had to take those shortcuts and just cut those features out. In order to support those advanced features, or one way of doing that is basically reuse the QCOW2 implementation within the LibNVD library, and by introducing this NVD stream in addition to the QCOW stream, and possibly even deprecating the QCOW stream in the future. The other benefit that this brings is the fact that it can actually preserve sparseness. This is currently not possible with the existing QCOW streams. So there's a PR for that, and it's next up in the review queue after the thin provisioned encrypted clones. There are some further live migration improvements and fixes pipeline as well. There's a PR that adds support for external subclusters, as well as a couple of bug fixes that address how live migration interacts with encrypted images. And I'm guessing one other item before we get to QA suite issues, one other development item here that I haven't listed is further enhancements to persistent write-back cache. There is a plan to change the PMEM library that is used by the PMEM mode of the persistent image cache. This mode is also referred to as RWL. And the motivation there is to be able to handle the space allocation in the cache plugin itself, instead of relying on the PMEM library for us to do that. This opens up some opportunities, some optimization opportunities, but unfortunately, it is also going to be changing the on-disk format of the PMEM mode, and that is the reason that this PR was delayed and moved out of Quincy into Reef. We didn't want to destabilize PMEM mode in Quincy, since most of our testing was done with that format and with that library. So this is the PR is there, and we're going to merge it in the beginning of the Reef cycle, just to make sure that the on-disk format change has enough time to bake and for any issues to be sorted out there. And the last thing on my list is QA suite improvements. The thing in mind, like the thing that I have, that is in particular on the list of things that need to be done is we have a few unstable jobs that either fail or time out. And it's been this way for a while now. And I think most of us just learned to ignore these failures. But one of these jobs actually masked a test regression. So luckily it wasn't an actual LibRBD or RBD mirror regression. It was a test regression where a certain test case just stopped running due to an unrelated change completely outside of RBD. That test case just stopped being executed. But due to the fact that it wasn't like it is part of a set of jobs that is constantly failing, we missed that, and it took quite a while to track that down, and quite some head scratching was involved due to inconsistent reports on the Pulpito dashboard due to this. So I would like us to commit to getting rid of this long-standing unstableness in the test suite in the Reef cycle. I mean, obviously the environmental failures are always going to be there, and it's always going to be a bit of a whack-a-mole with those, but any long-term issues like the ones I have in mind here should really be prioritized. I would say even over some of the bug fixes that are on this list, because this is a slippery slope that can lead to actual product regressions. I think that's all I have. Any other, anything else that should be on this list? Other than the persistent write-back cache and the multi-peer support that I'm going to add.
Going back to the RBD mirror stuff a little bit, I think one thing we talked about last week was trying to stagger a snapshot schedule and a mirroring schedule so that there's a consistent performance impact on over time. Maybe that's kind of already implicit in some of the ideas here around scale testing and performance, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, it is implicit in the snapshot scheduler improvements item. I explicitly called out the spreading out of the snapshots across the scheduling interval when I was going over it. It's line 13.
Thanks.
Probably not significant, but we were discussing about improving state machine documentation around RBD mirroring. Just better documenting some of the pieces for developers, and maybe Ceph movement of RBD suite to using Ceph. So still in pipeline, I think there's one piece that's remaining, multi-cluster support. But yeah, that needs some work.
Okay, the lack of state machine diagrams in the RBD mirror code base, that's something that should be fairly easy to address, and it also would be a good task for someone just getting familiar with the code base, since it's a good way to kind of have a look at it at a high level and put together those kind of high level state diagrams, and it would definitely help anyone who's opening a particular file for the first time. Feel free to add that to the RBD mirror bucket in the pad. As for the Ceph migration for the QA suite, I believe there is a PR for that. I don't think the person who started it is involved with Ceph anymore. But yeah, going forward, it might also be a good kind of starter thing for someone to pick up, get involved with topology and the RBD suite in general. We do have one job that has been migrated to Ceph ADM. That is the iSCSI job that. Yeah, we need to. I'm not sure. Like, I don't want to abandon package-based installs entirely. just yet, simply because the containerized, if the iSCSI, if migrating the iSCSI job to Ceph ADM is any indication, we still suffer from containerization issues, and I wouldn't want the entire RBD suite to just fail at some point, due to a particular environment issue, and not being able to merge PRs or test anything for like a week until that gets addressed. So I would still like to have the package-based installs have those facets be there, but migrating some part of the suite to Ceph ADM is definitely welcome.
I think there's only multi-cluster support that's not giving the that's that needs more effort. Apart from it, other suites look fine, but as you said, that I might not be aware of what Podman issue might hinder it, but it might be similar to the RTOS suite, and we can get some insights if people hit issues regarding Podman in RTOS suite as well, as they frequently run Ceph ADM-based tests. Yeah, Josh, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I guess I'd say that I agree in general. We don't want to get rid of package-based tests entirely. It would be helpful to revive this PR and migrate more of the testing to Ceph ADM. We could keep a parallel suite for packages as well if we wanted. I agree. We don't want to get rid of that coverage as well.
I guess it's just my sort of take on this has been, that RBD does not do anything special on the server side, and like the Ceph ADM coverage, we essentially should get it for free from the Radius suite and other suites that have already taken the plunge. On the client side, though, there are some things that, like, for example, the immutable object cache that is supposed to be generic, but it's considered to be part of RBD because RBD is currently the only user, and that is a client-side daemon that Ceph ADM does not manage, because Ceph ADM does not do anything on the client side. So I would actually be, like, as far as actual development and actual marrying RBD with Ceph ADM, I would be more interested in having those things integrated with Ceph ADM. So in particular, the immutable object cache, and maybe take a look at just in general how can, like, because at some point we talked about the notion of a client-side Ceph ADM for things like if you have a container registry, then you could just pull those containers instead of having to fish for packages to install on the client node. Honestly, I would be more interested in developments of that nature as far as Ceph ADM is concerned. But if someone picks that PR up and migrates the non-RBD mirror jobs, right? Because I think that's what Deepika refers to by saying that the multi-cluster support is missing. Another way of saying it is that none of the RBD mirror jobs would work. But migrating some chunk of single cluster jobs to Ceph ADM is fine with me. But it's fairly low priority, simply because we already have Ceph ADM coverage in other suites, and the thing that I listed about tracking down those jobs that are causing trouble and causing us to repeatedly waive them for both stable and major releases. That's definitely a priority.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one thing you mentioned there about moving the client-side pieces to be running in containers as well, I think that will be quite helpful in the medium to longer term with the work on topology to be able to run based on your local container image, and avoid a package build at all. I think that that's a ways off before it's ready for use, though. That's just getting started now. But I think that'll be quite helpful in the future.
Yep, I think iSCSI is already containerized in some sense.
iSCSI is actually a good example of how, the iSCSI daemon got containerized, but there is this GWCLI utility that you're supposed to use to configure your LANs and just in general interact with the iSCSI daemon. And that utility lives inside of the container, and whereas previously the user could just fire up a terminal, type GWCLI, and have at it, they now need to list the containers that are running on the node, identify the iSCSI container. There is a subtle difference between the iSCSI service container and the TCME runner container. Log into that container, so exec into it, and only then they can access the GWCLI utility. So from the iSCSI user experience perspective, the containerization actually degraded it. And these are the improvements that I would like to see as far as containerization is concerned, as opposed to just migrating the suite to Ceph ADM.
Nice. So the UX around Ceph ADM and client interaction forward in a way.
Yeah, it's just like you can you can invoke Ceph ADM shell, and that pops you into a shell where a Ceph command is available. It would be good to do something like that for iSCSI, and going forward for the NVME or Fabrics gateway, because this is a utility that is part of a daemon container today, but it really should be part of just a client-side set of utilities that the user can access after logging into a shell or something of that sort. It shouldn't take it shouldn't be go list containers, go grep for iSCSI, identify this particular container, exec into it. It shouldn't take that. This isn't specific. I kept referring to Ceph ADM, but this may not be just within Ceph ADM. This may be this is a bit wider than that, right? So, for example, the GWCLI utility in order for this to work, the WCLI utility needs to be made available in one of the Ceph containers, as opposed to being bundled in the iSCSI container, which also runs a daemon. So I'm guessing, I'm not sure if anyone is actually going to do any work on it in the Reef cycle, but I guess it doesn't hurt to add containerization improvements into the list of things, and in particular into the Trello board, so that it gets tracked and doesn't get forgotten about.
Yeah, it seems like those aspects would be important to consider with the NVME OF gateway in the future deployment and client-side tooling as well.
Yeah, I keep talking about iSCSI because iSCSI actually exists today, and I have experience with it, but it's going to be exactly the same for the NVMe.
Right.
Because it's exactly the same architecture.
Sounds good.
All right. Any other topics? Okay. Well, thanks for your input. Thanks for attending the RBD planning session. Hopefully we'll get a good chunk of this actually done for Reef. And I'll see you in the channels. Thanks.